Hi, this is a probably fairly brief video on a Sino-Korean version of the Kanzeon Chant. Now, what do I mean by Sino-Korean version of the Kanzeon Chant? Well, in you may have heard this chant referred to as the Kanzeon Chant. You may have heard it referred to as the Kanon Sutra. You may have heard it referred to as the 10 phrase Kanon Sutra, or you may have heard it referred to as the Extend Life 10 phrase Kanzeon Sutra, which is its full name in English. In Japanese, or the Japanese pronunciation is Enmei Juku Kanon Gyo. Enmei Juku Kanon Gyo, which means Extend Life 10 phrase Kanon Sutra. And this is a chant that actually is Chinese in its origin, and the form in which the chant is generally known, does come to the West from Japan, but it came to Japan from China, and the Japanese version of the chant, Japanese version in air quotes, is really just the Japanese pronunciation of the Chinese characters. That is, it's in Sino-Japanese. And so this, what I'm going to focus on in this recording is a Sino-Korean version of the chant. So before going any further, let me just let you know what it sounds like. I'm gonna say the title once, and then I'm going to, without the use of a moktak or any other instruments, just kind of recite the chant 3 times, just to give you an idea of it. And if you're familiar with the Sino-Japanese version of the chant, then this should sound very familiar. And it goes like this. Yeonmyeong Shipgu Gwanum Yong Kwansei Namu Bulta Yo Bulta Yu In Yo Bulta Yu Dan Bulbop Sung Dan Sang Kweraka Jong Cho Yom Kwansei Mo Yom Kwansei Yom Yom Jong Shim Gi Yom Buli Shin Kwansei Namu Bulta Yo Bulta Yu In Yo Bulta Yu Dan Bulbop Sung Dan Sang Kweraka Jong Jo Yom Kwansei Mo Yom Kwansei Yom Jong Shim Gi Yom Buli Shim Kwansei Namu Bulta Yo Bulta Yu In Yo Bulta Yu Dan Bulbop Sung Dan Sang Kweraka Jong Jo Yom Kwansei Mo Yom Kwansei Yom Jong Shim Gi Yom Buli Shim. And so if you wanted to really Koreanize it a little bit further at the end, instead of Yom Buli Shim, you would say Yom Buli Shim. This is the more Korean style way of ending a chant. And so if we look, starting with the do I have to? See, I'm displaying this. I'm going to go into slideshow mode. Let's see, just to make sure that everything looks, just so I can use the laser pointer. Yeah, okay, here we go. I'm going to make myself smaller now. Get out of the way. It's always a good idea. Oops, I made myself bigger and even bigger. Okay, now I'm going to make myself as small. What's going on? Sign in. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen again. Try to get this working. Screen options. Okay. All right, that's better. And now, made myself nice and small. This is what I wanted to do. You probably can't see this, but I'm going to hide the floating meeting controls. Anyway, so now this is almost exactly the way that this chant is written in Japanese, and we'll look at it. We'll do a side-by-side comparison of the Japanese and Korean version, both of which are actually in Chinese, written with the Chinese characters exclusively. But when we chant the title, let's see. Okay, good. Now I can get my laser pointer. So in the Japanese version of this, and I will resist the temptation to use air quotes. One says Enmei Juku Kanon Gyo, which this is Enmei means long life or extend life. Enmei Juku means 10 phrase. Kanon, which is the name of the Bodhisattva of compassion, and Kanon Gyo, and often in Japanese, this just Chinese character is written differently. There's often different ways of writing Chinese characters, and sometimes Japanese will prefer one version and Koreans another. Anyway, so this might not look exactly. If you have a Japanese Buddhist chanting book or sheet or anything like that, or look for something on the web, you might see this character written slightly differently. But it's the same character, just written differently. Think of it as a different font, you can. But anyway, Enmei Juku Kanon Gyo, long life, 10 phrase, Kanon Sutra. Now, if you take the same 10 characters and just give them their Sino-Korean pronunciation, you get Yeonmyeong, long life, Shipgu, 10 phrase. This is if you're familiar with Korean Buddhism and Korean Buddhist chanting, then you may be familiar with the Great Dharani. First line of the Great Dharani is actually the title of the Great Dharani. When we say what do we say at the beginning of the Great Dharani? I'm spacing it out. Geez. Anyway, I'll probably do another version of this, but Shinmyo Jangu Deidarani. This is the gu, same gu in Shinmyo Jangu Deidarani. The phrases. Guanum. This is the guanum as in Kanzeon or Quanum. And here you might be more used to seeing this written as just but actually in Korean there's two different vowels that sometimes get written using the letters of the English alphabet using the letter U, but actually the two vowels are different in Korean, and so in order to differentiate them, one is written as just U, and this one is written as EU, and it's more like a U than an U. And Gyong. Again, you might see this written as Gyong. Again, this is a different, there's an O and an sound in Korean, which I can't do very well. Anyway, Yeonmyeong. Oh, okay. These are a lot of cases of the different vowels. And now that I look at it, now I'm looking for it. Anyway, Yeonmyeong, Shipgu, Guanum, Gyong. Now, Kanzeon, in the Japanese version, we say Kanzeon. Kanzeon is the same pronunciation of the same 3 characters. Namu Bulta. Now, this is one place where it gets a little bit interesting because in the Japanese version, we say Namu Butsu. Okay, oh yeah, now I'm going to switch over to actually showing you the, get out of the slideshow effect right now because I want to show something that isn't a PowerPoint slide. This is a web page. This is hanja.org. Can I make that bigger? Let's see if I can make it bigger. No, I can't make that bigger. I can screw up the view. So hanja.org up here in the address bar, hanja.org. This is a website that I maintain with, I call it the K-Dharma wiki. Mostly it's Sino-Korean stuff and things related to learning hanja and Korean Buddhist chanting and things related to the Korean language and Sino-Korean in particular that are of interest primarily to Buddhists. Everything you never wanted to know about Buddhist Sino-Korean, but I'm going to tell you anyway. That's my subtitle to the K-Dharma wiki. And I have an entry in this wiki for a Sino-Korean version of the Kanzeon Chant. Now, it also wants to tell me that I need a hotfix applied to my, which I probably should do. The chant originates from, here I'm reading from the wiki. This chant originates from China during the Tang Dynasty. In China, the practice seems to have died out, and there doesn't appear to be any evidence that ever caught on in Vietnam or Korea. Japan, Korea, and Vietnam all largely, but not exclusively, Buddhism was brought to those countries from China, although there were also independent influences, not strictly Chinese influences, in Vietnam, Japan, and Korea, including directly from India. All three had their own contacts with Indian Buddhism, as well as with non-Han Chinese forms of or Buddhists from Central Asia, who at times ruled China, and also some of them even had direct contact with Tibetan Buddhism. Anyway, but for the most part, Korea, Vietnam, and Japan are countries which where Buddhism came to them from China. All right, so, but this chant originated from China in the Tang Dynasty, which is a long time ago. Appears to have died out in China. Appears to have never really caught on, or if it ever did, it died out in Vietnam and Korea as well. And only really is well known in Japan, and even there, doesn't appear to have been particularly widespread before relatively recent times, because of the effort of Zen Master Hakuin. Hakuin, who was very knowledgeable, claims to have never heard of this chant before until a mysterious wandering samurai visited him and told him about this chant. That's a very, very interesting story about how Hakuin, when he was already a fully realized Zen master, according to him, just ask him, he would tell you, he attained his full, complete, final realization at the age of 42. He was 60 years old when he discovered this, the Kanzeon Chant, from this mysterious wandering samurai. And he would go on to live almost another 20 years and was still very, very active teaching in his 60s and 70s, and really promoted this chant. And so in the West, up until quite recently, anyone who knew about this chant in the West knew about it by way of Japanese Buddhism. Two teachers not associated with Japanese Buddhism, one who is a Chinese Buddhist teacher, and the other is an American in the Korean Buddhist tradition, who happens to be my teacher, have both adopted this chant as part of their practice and as part of their teaching. Master Sheng Yen heard about this chant while visiting Japan, and was intrigued by it, and looked at it and saw that it was written in Chinese and was just being given a Japanese pronunciation, which is usually the case for most of the chanting that's done in Japanese Buddhism. And he did some historical research on it, found it, verified where it came from, and practiced it himself, looked into it, and found that it was quite useful. He came to believe that it was very good for people who had any kind of difficulty in meditation, that doing this chant was a good way of removing obstacles to the practice of sitting meditation. And so he promoted it among his students. My teacher, Zen Master Degak, who's also studied quite extensively Japanese Buddhism as well as Korean Buddhism. So learned this from learned this chant from his study of Japanese Buddhism. And I don't know when, 10, 15 years ago, I'm not sure how long ago it was, decided to begin incorporating this into his practice and into his teaching. And that's where I learned it. Well, I mean, I've also practiced with Japanese Buddhist groups anyway. But thing is that this is no longer just a Japanese Buddhist chant. Master Sheng Yen gave, when he taught this chant, he gave the characters their modern Mandarin pronunciation and set it to music. So it sounds very different. Zen Master Degak basically just he teaches people to chant this in with the Sino-Japanese pronunciation, and most importantly with the rhythm and the tune of the Japanese pronunciation. And so, for those, if you're familiar with the way this chant sounds when Japanese Buddhists are doing it, then you will have recognized what I was chanting at the beginning toward the beginning of this video. Should have sounded very familiar. But now I'm just going to look at it side by side. I don't have this wiki entry like most wiki entries. Still need some work. But here's the title. Let's see. Do I have this full screen? I'm going to get this full screen. No. Yes. Now it's full screen. All right. Was already full screen. Okay. So here, this column, the furthest left column, is the Sino-Korean written out using RR, which is the revised romanization, which is the one where the different vowels are distinguished explicitly. Then this is the Hanja, that is the Chinese characters written out in the way that they would be written by Korean people, but they're Chinese characters. This is the Hangul, which is the way that Korean speakers write out how it's the script. It's the native script of the Korean language. Kanji. This kanji here will be almost character for character the same as the Hanja, but I'm going to point out a few places where it's different. And then this is the Sino-Korean, the Sino-Japanese pronunciation over here to compare with the Sino-Korean pronunciation. And this is the meaning, so these two columns are not that important for this presentation, but I will have those filled out soon. Anyway, let's go through this. So first I'm just going to say the chant, recite the chant one more time. Yeonmyeong Shibgu Kwanum Gyeong Kwanseom Nam U Bulta Yo Bulta Yu In Yo Bulta Yu Dan Bul Bop Sung Dan Sang Kwerak Ajong Joyom Kwanseom Moyom Kwanseom Yom Yom Jongshim Gi Yom Yong Buli Shim. All right. So now I want to just point out a few places where the and this is, you don't really need to know this, but if you are familiar with the kanji, the way that and so writing out this sutra as a practice of sagyong, which is the practice of writing sutras. If you do that, and many Japanese Buddhists will write this out character by character as a practice, which is an excellent practice. If it's a little bit different if you want to write out the Sino-Korean version, and the reason for that is that in Sino-Korean, very I think without exception, one character always is pronounced as one syllable. In Sino-Japanese, most of the time, a single kanji is pronounced as a single syllable. But there are more than a few exceptions to this, and this shows up in the Kanzeon Chant. and I'll show you in just a second. So the first line, the title, which is not repeated, Enmei Juku Kanon Gyo, is pretty word for syllable by syllable maps to Yeonmyeong Shibgu Gwanum Gyeong. You can write Guanum or Quanum. I should be more consistent in that. Kanzeon, Nam U Bulta, Nam U Butsu. Okay, and here you see the single character for Buddha in Sino-Japanese is very, very often pronounced as Butsu. So here a single character is being pronounced as Butsu. In Sino-Korean, this would never be done. The same single character would always be pronounced as just Bul. And so in order to preserve the rhythm, which I think is quite important in this chant, we can add ta at the end. So we say Namu Bulta. And Bulta is a, if you're familiar with the Kanzeon Bosal chanting, then you might know that the first line of Kanzeon Bosal chanting goes like Namu Bulta. It's what is it? How does it go? Jeez. You know, whenever I'm doing a talk of any kind and I'm referring to another chant, or I'm referring to actually anything that I don't have detailed notes right in front of me, my mind always goes completely blank, right? But fortunately, I have lots of cheat sheets around. Yeah, Namu Bulta Bujung Guangnim Bope, and there's a elaborate tune that is often used, but it's not necessary when you're doing Kanzeon Bosal chanting. But the first line of Kanzeon Bosal chanting in the Korean Buddhist tradition is Namu Bulta Bujung Guangnim Bope. And Namu means bow to, or pay homage to, or take refuge in. Bulta means Buddha. Very often in Korean Buddhism, Buddha is just referred to with the single character of Bul. This character at the end of the Kanji version, at the second to the last character in the Hanja version, because we want to maintain the rhythm, and so we just make Namu Bulta so that it has the same number of syllables as Namu Butsu. And again, in the next line and the next line, we have Butsu again in the Sino-Japanese. In the Sino-Korean, we say Bulta instead of Butsu. Okay, so we say Kanzeon Namu Bulta Yo Bulta Yü and Yo Bulta Yü Dan. And in each of these cases, you'll see that there's an extra. Oh, look at that! I gotta fix this. I'm gonna have to do another version of this probably. I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna leave this as it is because I don't want to be a perfectionist. But what I need to do, I could edit this. I don't want to edit this in front of everybody. But what I'm gonna do, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop sharing. Oh yeah, and we can see I'm still. I'm going to share again. You can look at this. Yeah, see, you can see that. Now I'm the only person who can edit this wiki. Anybody can look at it, but I'm the only one who can edit it. If anybody out there watch this video is like really into Sino-Korean stuff and wants to help edit and maintain this, I may or may not be interested in talking to you about doing that. Wikis become a place where people argue about things, and I'm not interested in arguing about anything with anyone. It's not my. Oh yeah, I got to put the ta in there. Yeah. Okay. So now we can see that and you know, this is a recorded video. You can skip over the parts where I'm hemming and hawing and editing things and trying to figure out what it is that I'm talking about. And I'll try to put some helpful time links in the description to facilitate that. But now we can see that these two lines, just this line has an extra character, ta, and these two lines, so this is the title, so it's not really the first line. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, most Buddhist chants don't necessarily have assigned line numbers for, you know, if you break them up into lines, then you kind of do it arbitrarily. But in the 10 phrase Kanzeon Sutra, there are 10 phrases, and they're usually put on separate lines. And so the first line, Kanzeon, is the same number of characters in the Hanja and the Kanji version. The next three lines, the second, third, and fourth lines, have an extra character in the Hanja version, so that we pronounce Buddha. So when we're saying Buddha, we'll say Bulta instead of just Bul, because in the Japanese version, and we want to use the rhythm that's in the Japanese version, it says Butsu. All right, and so in the other lines, Bul Bop Sungdan. This is the same number of syllables in the same number of characters, the same number of syllables. Let's see, Namu Butsu Yo Butsu U and Yo Butsu U and Bupo So and Bupo So and yeah, Bul Bop Sungdan. Now here in the Japanese version, we say Kanzeon Namu Butsu Yo Butsu U and Yo Butsu U and Bupo So and Jo Raku Ga Jo. Jo Raku Ga Jo. Raku is the way that this character, which character means happiness or joy or bliss, that character right there, which means happiness, joy, or bliss. Again, this is just rak. In Sino-Korean, it's pronounced rak. Now, it's often the case that when a single Chinese character has a clear meaning, happiness, joy, and bliss, that nevertheless in the Chinese language itself, there is a preference for words with two characters, even though a single character has the meaning that's being the meaning that is being meant, and in this character right here, actually, so this is one thing you can do. You can, if you do a Google search on these two characters together. Let's see how this. See that? And you do. This is an excellent way of learning Chinese characters. Do an image search on the character, or if you have two characters, do an image search on the two characters. These two characters together, which are pronounced in Korean as kwerak, is a two-character word for happiness. Now, so rak by itself means happiness. Kwe by itself, this is the Wiktionary entry for a character, which is a very kwai, which is pronounced something like kwai in Mandarin. It also means pleased, happy, forthright. This is a very common thing in Chinese, and therefore is also found in Sino-Korean and in Sino-Japanese. There are many two-character, two-syllable words in the Japanese language, in the Korean language, that are actually Chinese words that are borrowed. And kwerak is a Korean word. Oh, here we go. See, just as I did a Google search on the So this is probably my favorite picture of Quedok. This is somebody staring at a piece of pie. Yeah, so I don't know how common that two-syllable word is in Korean, but it has the same meaning: happy, pleased, something that you like. Anyway, so in order to maintain the rhythm in this line, one can add this hanja. So one says Sangkwerak Ajong. Sangkwerak Ajong, where the Sino-Japanese has Jo Raku Gajo. Okay? And then the rest of it is just one for one, substituting, interestingly, because, let's see, where is it? Oh, yeah. So there is one place in the fifth line, which I didn't mention, where in the Sino-Japanese, we say Kanzeon Namu Butsu Yobutsu U and Yobutsu U and Bu Bop Song. Jeez. When I try to go back and forth, it can be hard. Bu Bop Soen, Bu Bop Soen. So here, Bup. Here in this line, the kanji for Buddha is being pronounced as a single syllable, and therefore these two lines are the same in the Korean and Japanese versions. Okay, even though when the character for Buddha is pronounced in the Japanese version as butsu instead of just bu or bup, then an additional character has to be introduced in the Hanja version to maintain the rhythm. And yeah, and so the rest of it is exactly the same, character for character. And the places where the 1, 2, 3, 4 places where an additional character has been added in, the meaning is exactly the same, and the characters are put in there just to maintain the rhythm of the chant. Okay, and so, there's one more thing I could show. Should I? Yeah. So here is showing every place where you can find a difference between the Hanja version and the Kanji version. That is or you could say the Sino-Japanese version and the Sino-Korean version written using Chinese characters. I referred to this earlier where sometimes in Japanese, not always, often you'll find this, the character for sutra, which is pronounced gyo in Japanese, will use this character, but very often you'll find that it uses a slightly different character. And then here are the 3 places where ta has been introduced. So we have bul ta instead of just bul, which it would otherwise be in Sino-Korean. And here's the inserted character for kwe, so that we have kwerak, which is pronounced raku in Sino-Japanese. So let me just end with the chant one more time. Yun myung shib gu guanum gyong. Kanzeon namu bulta yo bulta yu in yo bulta yu dan bulbop sungdan sangkwerak ajong joyom Kanzeon moyom Kanzeon yom yom jongshim gi yom yom bulishim. And while I'm at it, I really should recite the Bogol Jinon, the mantra for repairing mistakes. Bogol Jinon. Om horo horo sayamoke sabaha. Om horo horo sayamoke sabaha. Om horo horo sayamoke sabaha. And the mantra for dedicating the merit by way of saying, may all beings benefit. Boho hyang jinon. Om Samara Samara Mimara Jarama Jagora Barahum. Om Samara Samara Mimara Jarama Jagora Barahum. Om Samara Samara Mimara Jarama Jagora Barahum. May all beings benefit.